In section 1 of unit 7, we're going to look at arithmetic sequences and series. Again, the word looks like arithmetic, but it's pronounced arithmetic when it's describing the type of sequence or series. And in this unit later, we'll look at geometric sequence. Basically, arithmetic sequences are anything where you are adding, is a sequence of numbers where you're adding or subtracting the same thing to get from term to term. There will be a lot of notation in this unit. So if we look at, the first one we're going to look at here is number 2. So let's zoom in on number 2. And it says find the next 3 terms in the sequence after the last one that's given. So if we look at number 2 right here, we've got negative 31, negative 24, negative 17, negative 10, and we're trying to find these next 3 terms. In an arithmetic sequence, we have something called the common difference. It's basically, and we define it as D, so we're going to call it the common difference. And again, that's going to be the number that we're adding or subtracting to get from term to term in a sequence. And you can find that by taking one term and subtracting the term in front of it. So for instance, I could figure out my common difference here for number 2 if I took negative 24 and subtracted my first term, negative 31. Now that becomes add. So in this case, it's equal to 7. And if you notice, what we're doing here is we're adding 7 to get from term to term. So if I add 7 to negative 10, my next term would be negative 3. And my next term after that, if I add 7 to negative 3, I get 4. And if I add 7 to 4, I get 11. So these would be the next 3 terms after the last one of negative 10 that was given. Now let's go down and look at number 7, kind of in this next section. So now they say, given the first term and the common difference. So first term is always going to be what we call A1. A1 is always the first term of a sequence. Common difference is D, and that's what we're adding to get from term to term. Now keep in mind, the sequence could be going down. We could be adding a negative. So you're either adding a positive or a negative. 2 scenarios that D could be. So if we want to find, this one says find the first 5 terms. Now A1 is the first term. So we got negative 18. So that's my first term. To find my next term, my common difference is D. So I want to add 5 to negative 18. Well, that's going to be negative 13. Then I want to add 5 to negative 13, my second term, which is going to be negative 8. And I want to add 5 to that, which is going to be negative 3. And then I want to add 5 to that, which gets us into the positives, positive 2. There is my first 5 terms of that particular sequence. Okay, and let's do this next section. In arithmetic sequences, we can find a specific term given some information. Now there's going to be an nth term formula that we have on your blue reference sheet that you're going to want to use. And the nth term formula is this. AN equals A1 plus n minus 1 times D. And that is the nth term formula for arithmetic sequences. It's to find any term that you wanted to in any sequence given some information. Okay? And AN is going to be the term that you're trying to find. So if we look at number, we'll do number 14 here. We are trying to find a20. So if I look and I go through, if I have AN equals A1 plus n minus 1 multiplied by D, I am trying to find A20. That means the 20th term. Okay, if you notice with this subscript, that means that n is going to be equal to 20 if I'm trying to find the 20th term. So I could say it's going to be A1, which is 29, plus n minus 1. Now if I put 20 in there, 20 minus 1 would leave me with 19 there, times d, which is negative 30. And then I just have to evaluate the right-hand side here. Obviously, I have to multiply here first. So my a20, or my 20th term, is going to be 29 plus, and that ends up being negative 570 if you multiply that. And so a20, if I add 29 and negative 570, is negative 541. That means my 20th term is negative 541. Now, you're given A1 and D. You could list it out, but even listing it out to 20 terms is a lot, but they could have you find the 100th term, which we wouldn't want to list out that many terms. This formula gives us a formula for finding, I could find the 1,000th term or the 10,000th term.